It's been raining here in San Diego. It's been raining quite a lot, so this looked appropriate. And these raindrops are really quite something if one just watches them. If one just lets them do what they're doing. They're recognizable as drops in the water. And then they do what they do. And things get rippled over and over again. And a bubble floats by. And at the same time, there's ripples and splashes and drops. Somehow, other things happen. Ripples combine with ripples. Lines combine with lines. And it gets very busy. Apparently. Just dropping, splashing, and rippling. In a sense, there's really nothing happening. There's just activity, acting as nothing, and then again as something, apparently. Something and nothing. Nothing and something. And it's really kind of an invitation. From nothing being something to nothing to be something. Nothing is inviting nothing to be something. And it's really quite wonderful. This something that's nothing. And this nothing that's something. It really doesn't make any sense. It's really nonsense. And yet, it's happening. For no reason. Just apparently happening. This was making some guacamole earlier. Do you know guacamole? This made a wonderful bowl of guacamole to be eaten later with some people, other people. And it was just a gorgeous guacamole just sitting there in a glass bowl with a little salsa on top, ready for some chips to dip into it. And as it sat there on the kitchen counter, it was just nothing. Called guacamole. And just talking about it makes the mouth water. And at the same time, it was obviously nothing. It had no name. It had no meaning. And yet it was there, apparently, sitting on the kitchen counter. To be eaten later. Nothing to be eaten by no one in no time. As nothing being something. So what is all this nothing? This nothing, this nothingness. It's also somethingness. To no one. That's no longer someone. What is it about this nothingness that can be inviting? Nothing. And something. How can something be nothing? And yet this nothing is an invitation. For the nothing that is there already as everything to be everything. Nothing is inviting everything to be everything. And if everything includes nothing, then everything is inviting everything to be everything. Because it is already. Because there only ever was and is everything. Doesn't seem to make sense to the one needing sense. The one trying to make sense out of all it sees. The sensible one. And yet all this activity in the water is senseless. It's doing what it's doing without the need for explanation or understanding or sensing. It just keeps doing what it's doing. And at the same time, it's inviting all there is to be all there is. All there is, it's already there to be all there is. Just an invitation, a constant invitation to be what is already. Enjoying the joy of already being everything infinitely. Itself. As everything and as nothing. What a wonderful invitation. Always open, always inviting, always there, apparently. As no thing. Just like the guacamole that keeps coming up. Have you heard that avocados are called by the Mexicans the butter that grows on trees? No? Well, San Diego's right on the border with Mexico. And so there are lots of avocados here. So guacamole is popular in San Diego too. And this will have some at some point today. Can the invitation be felt from these raindrops and these ripples. See how they change their activity? And that bubble floating by that just disappeared. Oh, yes. Can you unmute yourself? All the different animals are just oneness, being oneness. The huge variety of animal life is just oneness, being oneness that way in hundreds and thousands of forms. It's all one, being one in 1,000 different ways, or 1,000,000 different ways, or infinite different ways. Each animal is not a separate from the other separate from other animals. There's not a separate animal identity living that animal's body. It's just life living each animal as life, living each individual animal body that way. It's the same with people. It's just not that many people see it. So if there are 10 cats or 8 cats, each one being different, they're all just life being those 8 cats in the differences that each cat shows. Each cat is what is, or all there is, living each cat in the way of each cat. Everything is one. It has been, it always will be. People, because of their evolved brain, have the ability to separate themselves from oneness. And so that's what has happened to most people. They're living, have a separate life that they are responsible for. And that separateness, that separation, that identity that does the separating is not able to see oneness. So the identity, love or warmth or connection or all kinds of feelings. And at the same time, it's still separate from oneness. Or when that separate self is no longer there, then oneness sees itself. And that is only seen when there is no longer a separate self. There's a constant invitation from oneness or wholeness or all there is or the infinite it's constantly there. It's constantly being oneness. And it's just not seen by most people. It cannot be seen by most people. Most people have a disconnection from oneness, a off from oneness, inability to experience or feel or know or recognize or explain, or because these are all activities of the separate self. As long as that self is there, or as long as it thinks it's there, because it's not really, there will not be oneness. It's not possible. The separation is so successful that oneness won't experience oneness. As that's the quandary that the separate self has created for itself. That's the impossibility that the self has created for itself, so it will always have to remain itself, because it's created a situation where it doesn't have a choice. It says that it has free will, but it really doesn't. Because it's not possible for it to do anything. until it just stops being. And it really can't choose to stop being, because that's another activity of it. And as it goes through, as that self goes through all of its shenanigans, all of its effort, all of its seeking, all of its trying, all of its doing, all of its knowing, all of its explaining. It cannot see that it can't do anything. It cannot see it. It cannot make it happen. It cannot do it. Somehow, at the point of falling away, that separate self somehow, without doing it, without making it happen, without manipulating anything, without doing anything, somehow, some way, there's just a giving up or a letting go. Something. Without trying to do it. They're just a letting go. They're just a dropping off. There's just a no longer there. Because it's not there anyway. It's just not there. The self is quite talented at being itself. It's quite talented. It's been called an imposter, the great imposter. It's very agile and very determined to survive. It has created itself to the point where it feels as real as it can feel. and that its life is solid and firm and dependable and predictable, so that it can feel secure in its attempt. It's could be seen as its attempt to feel one or whole. Not realizing that it already is. It can't feel its own. It cannot feel oneness. Because it's there. When it's not there, it's not the one that feels oneness. When it falls away, it's no longer there to feel oneness. It's oneness. It's oneness that's oneness, not the self. When the self is gone, automatically there's oneness, because that's all there is. That little blip of self that thought it was everything, when it's gone, when that blip is gone, everything is oneness, because it always was and it always will be. It always is. The blip is just a blip. What? It's called a contracted energy. That contracted energy can change and not be contracted anymore. That's a change in the energy of all there is, or of oneness. Just an energetic change. Just like these ripples change. These ripples are energy in the water, or they're energy of the water, or they're energy of water, or they're water energy. They change from ripples to quiet, still water. Or that bubble is water energy as a bubble. It's just the energy of oneness as water. People are the energy of oneness as people. Cats are the energy of oneness as cats. Cats have cat energy. People have people energy. Water has water energy. So that invitation in the ripples is not an invitation for the self. It's not inviting the self. It's just an invitation to oneness, to be oneness as oneness. So how about that? Starting to rain here. Can you hear it? It may be that effort as the self sees that effort goes nowhere. And that effort may just stop efforting anywhere. Effort goes nowhere. The self is the self just in a sense is useless. Incapable. Impossible. Until it's not there. It's already not there. It's already not there. It's already not there. It's already not there. Already. Nothing can be done. Nothing can be done by it. Nothing. It might as well just give up. And yet, it's not its choice. It is impossible for the self to do it. totally impossible. And it's not there anywhere. Oneness is there. Inviting oneness to be oneness. Infinitely. It's an infinite invitation to be infinite. And not to be separate. There's no invitation to be separate. Why bother? It's an infinite invitation to be infinite. Infinite. Infinity is inviting infiniteness, infinitely.